Almost every powerful image you've ever seen uses one important principle, and I'm going to show you what that is. Hello everyone, I am Artextric, an anime artist and VTuber who helps artists improve their drawing skills. I have experience in anime freelance work and character design. Today we're breaking down one of the most important fundamentals in art, composition. Let's get to it. Now let's ask, what is composition? Composition, by definition, is the arrangement of elements in an image to guide the viewer's eye and communicate a story or idea. As you can see in these examples at the very beginning of the video, in this movie frame, this manga panel, this game scene, and even my own artwork, I point out you can have an idea where the eye should go, or at least be focusing on most. That's what we call a focal point. A focal point is the main subject the viewer should be noticing first. Every strong composition usually has one clear focal point. Sometimes two, but usually have one, putting focus onto your subject. We can use contrast like light and dark, color difference, detail, placement, and lighting. Leading lines. What are leading lines? Leading lines is a guide the viewer's eye towards the focal point. These lines can be roads, swords, arms, perspective lines, and even shadows. So for example, a character holding a sword pointing towards another character. The sword leads your eye towards the subject. Now, there are different types of compositional patterns that you can use or methods, but we're going to use something simple as the rule of thirds. Something that every beginner and professional uses, even up to this day, even if they're so far in their career or you're just starting off. It's one of the best things to use and start off with. It can be very powerful when used right. What the rule of thirds is a guide that divides the image into 3 vertical and 3 horizontal sections. This creates 9 squares. Important elements are placed along the lines or intersections. Why this works? Well, it creates natural balance and avoids stiff, centered compositions. A character standing on the left third of the frame instead of the middle, you can see constantly in movies, photography, and anime scenes. Balance. What is balance? Balance is the distributing visual weight, so the image doesn't feel awkward. Visual weight comes from size, brightness, and color. Example, if one of your images have a large character and the other might have a building, multiple smaller characters, or even environmental elements, this keeps the image feeling stable. Depth, foreground, midground, and background. What is this? Now, you might be asking, this sounds like something with perspective. In a weird way it is, but it's not at the same time. Just hear me out, it'll probably make sense. So, in a weird way, this kind of goes back a little bit to foreshortening that we mentioned before in previous lessons, where something that is close up is usually really big, and something really far is usually small. Like I told you guys before in previous works, anything that is very big is usually very close, but usually the most darkest. Anything that is far away, depending on the environment, but usually far away, is much lighter and usually bluer. Plus, it's usually smaller. For example, I'll draw this tree branch in the foreground, and in the background, I'll draw a character, more and a little bit more color. First, I'll draw the tree branch. It's very close, it's the biggest thing, and it's gonna be darker. And then, showing more contrast, I'm gonna draw a character in the midground. Right here, there we go. And then he's gonna be a little bit more in color, and then the background, the mountains here, will be a lot bluer because, well, the sky's blue, and it makes everything bluer, and it kind of mixes in with there, but it's just gonna be a lot more lighter, and a bit smaller, and stuff like that. Even the opacity might be a little bit more less than the others, so that might be a thing. This makes the image feel more three-dimensional, if that makes sense. Now, negative space is also a form of composition. So for those who don't know what negative space is the empty space around the subject. So anything or any mass that's not taking up any space. Good negative space helps. It emphasizes the focal point, it avoids clutter, and it makes the composition readable. For example, a single character standing in a large open sky. The empty space makes the character feel important. Thumbnail sketching. This is a practical tip that most people should practice, which I'm still practicing to this day when I use my animatics. Some of you have been familiar with my animatics to a degree where I kind of try to make it as readable as possible without putting too much clutter. So I use something called thumbnail sketching. So I make a thumbnail of a particular scene of what I want, and then when I do that, and I feel satisfied with it, I move on to the next one. And it's supposed to convey the importance of each scene so you guys have an understanding of what's being read, what is happening, and why is it important. It tests different compositions, finds a strong layout, and avoids mistakes early. So for our closing statement here, composition is one of the biggest differences between beginner and professional artwork. Once you start paying attention to focal points, leading lines, balance, and depth, your drawings will instantly feel stronger and a lot more powerful. Try applying these ideas to what I taught you today to your next drawing and see how much it improves your work. As a quick summary with the core concepts of what we learned today about composition, the first one we learned was focal point, leading lines, negative space, the rule of thirds, depth, and thumbnail sketching. Now this is the bonus round here where I have something for you guys here, where you guys can learn how to use 3 different methods other than just the rule of thirds. One of them we're going to start off with is the triangular composition. What the triangular composition is a composition that arranges important elements so they form a triangular shape. It's supposed to represent a form of powerfulness or strength or authority over one, or just showing just heroicness. It depends on how it's being used. As you can see in one of my drawings here, I learned this from David Finch himself. I suggest if you want to see that video, he might go in more in depth with it and show you more examples, but I'll show you my examples as well as I'm explaining this to you. I'll put his link in the descriptions if you guys want to check him out. So yeah, overall, the idea of the triangular shape is to show a sense of strength, authority, presenting a powerful stance against something or for something. To use it, it's supposed to be representing forms of balance. You might see this a lot in DC, Marvel, and manga books if you want to check them out. So for example, 3 characters are arranged in this triangle. Top point, the main character, bottom 2 points, 2 supporting characters. You'll see this constantly in movie posters, anime group shots, and Renaissance paintings. Triangles naturally gives the viewer's eye around the image while keeping the composition balanced. The S-curve composition, an S-shaped visual path that guides the viewer's eye. The S-curve composition, what this is a S-shaped visual path that guides the viewer's eye through the image. Instead of the eye stopping at one point, it flows across the artwork. Why this works, it creates movement, elegance, and storytelling flow. You might see this a lot in winding roads, a river, a character's pose, or even flowing hair and cloth. You might even see this in manga panels by any chance, depending of how good it is. The golden ratio, also known as the golden spiral. To be honest, I have never got to use this one before. I have used the others before, but I have never used this one. So you might actually see me use this in this video or use an example. It depends, mainly based on my laziness, but it is what it is. So what it is a natural mathematical proportion used in art, architecture, and photography. It creates a spiral shape that leads the viewer's eye towards the focal point. It feels naturally balanced and aesthetically pleasing. It appears a lot in famous paintings, photography, film farming, and nature. The simple explanation for beginners is this. Think of the golden ratio as a spiral that pulls the viewer's eye towards the most important part of the image. So for instance, I'll show an overlay of this, of my own work or someone else's, just to show a contrast on how this works. They can be 2 different types of drawings. It doesn't have to be the same. Once you understand the fundamentals, artists often starts using more advanced composition techniques, just like triangular composition, S-curve composition, and golden ratio. So with that said, if you guys enjoyed what you see here, please like, subscribe, share, follow, and comment. And please, if you guys love to give any suggestions on what you want me to do next, put in the comments. I read them all. So with that said, I'll see you guys next one. I hope you guys have an awesome day and do well on your art journey. So with that said, there you guys.